And welcome back on this Tuesday morning. Let's quickly go over that forecast. I think much of the rain has already cleared out for this morning anyway. Around 1 o'clock we should see about 40% chance of some more thunderstorms popping up with high temperatures around 90 today, your low of 72. Tomorrow 40% chance of those thunderstorms yet again, as well as the next day, all the way through Friday. And we may even see some rain over the weekend. Sorry to bring you so much joy of rain every day. 230-4988 does get Frank this morning. Good morning to Frankie out there as well. Dr. Jan White and Dave, your husband is with us this morning. General, I should say. Retired general.
Yeah.
3-star? 2-star?
2-star.
2-star. That's, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was lucky.
Lucky. I think there's probably a lot of hard work involved in that, too.
Yeah, there was.
We hear some stories. What's your topic for today?
Well, the topic today is retirement and marriage, and I decided to cover this because Jamie shared an article with me from USA Today a couple of months ago, and I thought, gee, this is something I've never discussed on the air.
Right.
In my research, I found out that retirement satisfaction and retirement patterns is the #1 most researched topic among gerontologists. Yeah, so I learned something. But you know, Dave has been retired now for about 28 months, and so I asked him to join me, and you know, he can add to it. But you know, what people don't realize is that retirement does impact the marriage.
Oh, I imagine. You're used to him being gone all the time, then all of a sudden he's here. Like, I wonder when Jamie retires if that means he's going to be leaving.
I don't know, but it's something you need to discuss.
We talked about that, huh?
So Dave looked at this article, and you know, so we had a discussion about it. And this article said that, you know, and there's the article, that what people don't realize is that people plan for retirement financially, and they talk about the finances and they plan for that, but they don't talk about the psychological impact that it may have on the marriage. So they made 3 main points. The main point is that spouses, the retiring spouse retires, they start staying at home. So now they're sort of in the wife's role in her area, and so they don't really know what to do. So now the retiring person has no role because that role is gone now. So now what do? You know, you wake up every day and you say, now what? What is my new role?
Do you have them clean the house, do all the chores? I mean, or are you just staying on playing golf, fishing?
Yes to all that.
Yes to all of that. So you've been keeping yourself busy doing that kind of stuff.
But Dave, you said that you wake up every day and you so he does what needs doing. So if there's a pile of dishes in the sink, you know. But I understand, like Jamie was talking about, you know, the dishwasher. Dave's had a couple of mishaps in the kitchen.
Well.
Share, Dave.
When he was talking about the dishwasher, I came out one day and thought, well, I'm looking around for something to do, and I see the dishwasher. So I open it, and the dishes are clean. So I thought, okay, I'll put those away.
They weren't.
So I put all the dishes away, like I never found where some of them went, because I didn't know where the layout was.
And you lived in that home for how long?
Well, a few years.
That's what I'm saying. You'll be like, where's so-and-so? We've lived here 7 years, and you don't know, but anyway.
But anyway, I worked it out, and I was really proud of myself, and Jan came up later and said, you know, where's the dishes? And I said, well, I put them away. She said, oh, they hadn't been washed.
Well, they look clean. They look lovely.
And she had rinsed them, put them in there, and I thought they looked pretty nice to me. So then we had to go figure out where all those dishes were.
Which ones were dirty.
And so we ended up washing almost every dish in the house, I think, before it was all said and done, because I just didn't know which switches to throw.
I have to say, I mean, I was shocked when I came home and I noticed there was dishes on the counter. I was like, you emptied the dishwasher? I mean, that really stunned me.
Yeah.
I think, and I had to ask him, I said, is that the first time you've ever unloaded a dishwasher?
No. Well, you know, Dave...
I don't believe you, but he said no.
Before Dave retired, you know, he lived in Mississippi for 5 years, and we ran the road. So, see, his dishwasher had different buttons on it, you know, and so when I went down there, I was kind of in his area, you know.
He had to show
so
you
there was a real shift there, So, well, going on, the second point, this article said that people need to realize that when you retire, you really often don't have a social network, because where is your social network? That's the people you're working with. So you get ready to go out and do something. Well, hey, all my friends, they're working today. They're not available. And I know, Dave, you ran into that with your golfing.
Do you get bored? I mean, I would imagine that's probably the number
Well, the
one
biggest
thing.
problem I had, when we retired, we had been in the Army, obviously. And the Army is kind of like being a school teacher. You got a lot of prestige and no money. So one of the things we knew we had to do was, build up a nest egg. And so we actually sat down and kind of developed a plan. We're big fans of Dave Ramsey, the guy that's the financial guy on the radio.
Right.
He's got some books out, and we
Financial
actually
Peace.
read the books and started trying to follow some of his tips. And so that was working along pretty well. But the thing I didn't think about was the social part of it. I had had a 40-hour-a-week job since I was in the 11th grade, because my dad was a 18-wheeler driver.
Right.
In those days, those trucks just beat you half to death, so he always had back problems.
Oh.
I grew up with the smell of that sneaky
Diesel.
stuff you rub on your back.
Bengay.
Bengay.
Yeah,
Yay,
Bengay.
yuck.
I think everybody had Bengay, but
Yeah.
we rubbed his back a lot. But he got to the point where he was partly paralyzed, so I had to go. I went half a day in high school, and I worked half a day. And I did that the 11th grade. So I've really been working since I was in the 11th grade, pretty full time. Then you retire. And then I found out, like Jan said, the friends I had either been in the military or they'd been civil servants that I had worked with in the military. And then when we came down to Huntsville, I was running a contract out at Marshall Space Flight Center for the company I worked for. And I had 1,200 employees working for me.
Wow.
So out of that, I found hunting buddies, I found fishing buddies,
All kind of buddies.
I found
Golfing,
golfing buddies.
yeah.
So I was covered.
Okay.
And so you just take that for granted. I thought that's the way it was. Then I moved to Stennis to run this contract Jan was talking about just before I retired, and I was there 5 years. Well, I was fortunate, and again, then I went into a work environment. So again, I had friends that were work, and a couple of the people from Huntsville had moved to Slidell because the contract we had out there had been terminated. So I had another nucleus. But that's the biggest shock I had, is that now I'm retired. I'm not in, the people in Huntsville have, gone on about their jobs and things
Yeah,
like that, so
right.
I don't really have any
So
contact
they've
with them.
left.
I'm out of Slidell
Oh.
now.
Well, I don't have any friends either.
Well, I
You
know,
come
but
over
you
and
got to
hang out
find
with
some friends.
Jamie.
Yeah.
You know, hang out.
Yeah.
And so you need to kind of start thinking about this before you
Right.
actually retire and make some friends so that you'll have a built-in network.
And keep yourself
then,
busy and not just sit at home and be bored.
Right. And so the third point was that you really need to plan for the financial aspect of this and the living arrangements. But this psychological adjustment of living with your spouse post-retirement is a big thing that you need to sit down with your spouse and talk about.
What if it's a husband and a wife that really can't be together? I mean, we're odd by no means. but
Yeah.
what do couples do if they're not used to being together and they're going to be at each other's throats if they have to spend
Well,
together,
It's a big
all
adjustment.
day together?
It really is.
I think then you really do need to talk about it beforehand. Don't wait until the day after the retirement and, oh, whoops, we're not really compatible.
24 hours a day.
Then you really do need to sit down and talk this over.
Take up new
and figure
hobbies
it out.
maybe.
Yeah, figure it out way beforehand. That's
Probably
my
people
advice.
don't even think about things like that.
No, and I think that's what's so interesting about this article is that, even though it's gerontologists, we study this. This is one part of it that we really avoid because we're looking at retirement patterns and retirement satisfaction, not the psychological adjustment.
Right.
So,
Well, Dave, what do you do when, Jan's working? Are you just hunting, fishing, golfing?
Well, I'm trying to, but I'm not having a lot of luck.
Vacuuming,
Well, she's got some
dishes.
other ideas, but I'm working on that part of it. But, it's still kind of a challenge. I've been retired now, 28 months, 5 days, and 3 hours.
but who's counting now?
But who's counting? But
That's
I
cute.
still get up wandering around. I'm addicted to MSN, so I turn the computer on in the morning.
Do you
That's
still
my,
get
that's
up
my
early?
source of news. No, I quit
So
that.
you get to
When
sleep
I got out of the Army, that
Okay.
went away real quick. I adjusted to that almost overnight. So that was one thing I didn't have to worry about. So I don't get up till around 7 o'clock.
So that structure
Yeah,
that
that's
you've
good.
had for so many years didn't seem to bother you at all?
No, that part of it didn't.
Good.
Yeah, and again, like Jan said, you worry about the financial part because that's what you hear every day. Get the money
Yeah.
to retire. Get the money to retire, and that just pounded in you. What they fail to say is, oh, by the way, you've got a social aspect to this that
That's going to
that
change.
gets to be about as big, if bigger than the money part. Yes.
A lot of Dear Abby's complain that the wife complains that the husband follows them around all the time because they got nothing to do after they
Therefore,
retire.
That's a good problem. I mean,
I
that's
can
probably
see
true.
where that would happen, but that hasn't happened to us.
Yeah.
You know, and my office is in the basement, and so that's my little area, and I'm down there, you know, stuck at the computer. Not really stuck, but that's where I am, and so then Dave is upstairs, so there's a division
Occupying
of...
his time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what about, you know, I know you actually were smart enough to take advantage and do something about the financial side of retirement, but so many baby boomers, which we're going to soon find out what happens to all these people that can't afford to retire. What are they
Right.
possibly going to be doing?
Well-
And now healthcare is such a big issue too.
Right.
Or if you
Right.
lose your job, you can't find another job, you
Right.
can't find insurance or afford
Right.
it rather.
Yeah.
Well, in my research for the segment today, I found that there are 40 million boomers in the workforce now, and they have no intention of leaving because they
They
can't
can't.
afford it. The average 401k for a baby boomer is $149,000, and you cannot retire on that.
There's no way.
No way. And so,
We're never
here's the good
retiring.
news, because, you know, the early projections were that the baby boomers were going to retire and bankrupt Social Security. That's not happening because those figures were assuming that baby boomers were retiring at age 65, and they're not.
So they're still putting into
They're,
that
they're
Social
actually
Security
paying
plan.
into the system.
Okay.
So really, because they're broke, that's kind of a good thing, you know, for the system. And a lot of boomers just don't want to retire anyway.
They want to keep going.
Yeah.
And a lot of boomers too, which is going to be different for the next generation, is they are inheriting from their parents. And that's, I don't think, going to happen anymore.
You mean the
I think
boomers
the
are
boomers,
inheriting?
yeah, like say Jamie, for instance, if you know, or family, but when Jamie, I mean, uses all of his money, or I do, I mean, it's going to be a lot different for the children.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. I would
You
have
think
to
all
look
the
into
adults have
that
spent their
because
money?
people are living longer. And so some of the boomers who are counting on this money for
not going
retirement,
to be there?
that is going to go to long-term care. That is going to be spent. I'm only speculating.
Oh, that
But
makes a lot
if
of
you
sense
have
because
money
it's
coming your
expensive.
way, I would not bank on that.
Well, you can never bank on it until it's
Right.
in the bank.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Right.
Okay. Well,
Right.
good advice. All right. Well, if you can do the Dave Ramsey, which is difficult for people that own their own businesses, things like that. But
Yeah,
you need to
it
do
was a
some financial.
sacrifice. It
You guys
was.
worked hard at
That's why we
it.
don't do it.
Yeah, it was a big
We're in trouble.
sacrifice, really. And
Okay.
it took, 10 or 15 years to do it.
And you guys worked at it. Well, you
Oh,
guys had
every
good,
day.
good goals.
Every day,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Well, thank you again for being with us, Dave. Honored
Well,
to
thank
have
you.
you here.
Okay.
Thanks
My
for
pleasure.
bringing them.
You're welcome, anytime.
Dr. Jan White, of course, you can always contact us if you need to get in touch with her. And if you have a topic you'd like her to research, just let us know and we'll pass it along to
Yes.
her. All right, stay with us. When we get back, we're going to show some video from the Tractor Parade and Piney Chapel Tractor Show, Antique Show, I believe that they had. I think that's the full name. It's a long one. But we're going to share that video when we return. Stay with us.